I know.
I haven't rubbished anything you've said, Phil.
Stance.
All I've done. Yes, I know you are, Phil. Yes,
okay.
And I hope all your neighbours may all your neighbours blend in, Phil.
You are a sanctimonious person. You really are.
May all
Cheerio,
your
James.
neighbours blend in.
Yep, and yours. Bye-bye.
Love to the family.
Have you ever heard someone insist they're not prejudiced only for their own words to tell a different story? Well, that's exactly what you're about to see. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This is the second part of James O'Brien's explosive exchange with a caller who insists he doesn't want brown neighbors. The conversation quickly unravels, revealing contradictions that are impossible to ignore. Watch until the end, because I'll share my full thoughts once we've broken it all down.
Out loud.
What?
Well, that you're basically being a racist, but calling it culturalist instead.
No, I'm not being a racist. There is a huge difference.
Right. So what would these people do that makes them undesirable neighbours, Phil?
See that, then it's your
well, you can
problem,
show me, Phil. They're living next door to you.
And
they're living next door to you,
country,
Phil.
James.
What are they doing? What are they doing that makes them undesirable neighbours, Phil? Apart from being brown.
Well look, let me just shift it a little bit.
I wish you'd answer one of my questions. You don't know what liberal means.
I'm trying to answer it, but you won't.
Well, what do they do? No, you just literally said, let me shift it. That's not answering. That's shifting it, Phil. These are your words that I'm playing back to you. What do the imaginary neighbours do?
Look, I'm fortunate enough to live in a very kind of typical, English, small town.
What does English mean?
I don't have to suffer. I don't have to suffer cultural, if you like, shocks on my doorstep.
Like what?
Well, I don't. I mean, I'm being absolutely honest. I don't want to see women having to, cover up.
Right.
No Western woman naturally covers up.
What if they're Polish?
And we wonder why these other women do.
What if they're Polish?
That is cultural, essentially, indoctrination. And if you can't recognise that, that is the problem.
Well, it's not a problem. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of face veils, but I wouldn't have a problem living next door to somebody who wanted to wear one any more than I'd have a problem living next door to someone who wants to wear flip-flops.
Well, it probably would matter how many were there, James, and just how religiously, if you like, they abided by their doctrine.
Okay. So it's the face masks and the
point is, you will not acknowledge that people do have a concern about that.
I acknowledge it by asking what the concern is, Phil, and now we've got there now. You don't want to live next to women who wear face veils.
I don't want to live in a country where women are subjugated. No, I don't.
No, so you want to introduce laws. You want to introduce laws telling them what they can and can't wear.
It's quite staggering.
There's no cognitive dissonance here, Phil. What would you do?
I'm not saying for 1 minute that all Muslims are, like that, but the fanatics
like
are,
what, Phil?
as in the Christian fanatics.
Like what, Phil?
Like, what do you mean, like what?
You said, I'm not... this is just the strangest conversation. You keep saying things. You said, I'm not for one moment saying that all Muslims are like that. And I said, like what, Phil? And you said, what do you mean, like what? How can you not understand? Just calm down a bit, Phil. Slow down.
There are a lot of Christians and a lot of Muslims who you would not know they were Christian or Muslim.
Right.
That's the point. There are an awful
So they're
lot,
blending in.
They're nominal.
They're blending in.
Nominal. They're blending, they're nominal. And this is what causes people, stress. Because
face veils.
We all conform. We all try. There is a norm, and that's another thing. The norm has been lost.
Yes.
There is a norm.
Can you describe the norm to me, Phil?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, the norm is, like, for example, at a school, the norm is a school, outfit, school uniform. That's a norm.
So you want everyone to dress the same?
No.
So what's the norm, Phil?
But if you
slow down a little bit.
If you studied standard deviation, you'd see that the norm encompasses quite a range. But it's the standard deviation. Okay?
What's the norm?
And outside of that, there are the extremes.
Phil, this doesn't make sense. What is the norm?
No, I know. Okay, James, it doesn't make sense to you, but that is the problem.
What is the norm?
And you cause the problem.
I cause the problem. What's the norm, Phil? What's the norm, Phil?
That there are perfectly decent
Phil, stop
reasons
repeating yourself and tell me what some of these words mean.
About immigration.
What does the norm mean?
The norm is what people feel, comfortable. I would not consider, skinheads in bother boots the norm in dressing in society. Okay, that kind of wear I would not consider the norm in English society.
Right. That doesn't help me much.
That's an extreme. No, it doesn't. But the point is, the norm is broad.
Well, what is it then? Just put it into English words.
James, I'm not going to go down this. I know what I'm saying.
You keep objecting to me, asking you the meaning of the words you use. So what's the norm? So let me run through some of the words that you've used. All right, people should blend in more. Polish people are all right, but Muslim people aren't.
You're putting words into my mouth.
No, these are all words you've said.
I'm quite sure I didn't say they should blend in more. I said, this is what, all I said is people,
there's a tape.
If you blend in, then you're not so...
Then you can live next door to Phil. If you blend in, you can live next door to Phil.
Justifiable.
You keep interrupting me when I'm interrupting you. I'm running through the words that you've used. You definitely used the phrase blend in. Can we agree about that?
I probably did use it, but not in the sense that you just used it.
Okay, so what sense did you use it? What sense did you use it in, Phil?
Well, I'm saying if you blend in, you are not noticed. That's the point.
Yeah, so what does it mean, blending in?
Like, I've lived in 4 different countries in my life.
Can I give you a tiny little bit of advice? Would you mind?
Yes.
Because I think obsess a little bit less about people who are trying to promote harmony. Try not to be so frightened of things.
That's my argument.
No, it's not, Phil. No, it's not. No. You want everyone to blend in, Phil. You want everyone to blend in. Just relax, seriously. Pay attention. This comes from a place of love. You've said yourself that you're nowhere near all of the things.
Guy, James.
Well, you said you were a centrist.
You're hilarious.
So
you're hilarious.
All of the things that you said yourself you have no personal exposure to, you don't need to be frightened of.
James, all I'm saying is,
everyone's heard you, Phil. Everyone's heard everything you've said. I'm just telling you, you don't need to be so scared.
You just answer me one question now, James.
I'll try.
Just imagine that we were nuked. Britain was nuked.
Oh, my days.
A large part of Britain was nuked. And we had to go overseas when we'd hoped that other countries would open up their borders to allow us in.
Yes.
Okay? Now, tell me, would you go to a theocracy?
Would I go to a theocracy?
Yes, would you go to Afghanistan? Would you go to
I'd go where I speak the language. I don't know what point you think you're making. I'd go to Australia because I've got friends there.
That question. You just answer that question, okay? Just tell me, and then tell me why would you make that decision? If you had a choice,
stop
James,
talking and let me answer. Let me answer the question. I'd go wherever was safe.
Yes. Well, okay, fine. You'd go wherever you're safe. But given a choice, where would you go? You've got a choice of Europe, or you've got a choice of going to Iran.
Greece. I'd go to Greece. I'd go to Greece.
Other countries. Where would you go?
Greece.
You'd go to Greece?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a bad place. I would kind of agree with that.
What are we talking about now, Phil? What do you think we're talking about now?
I'm just trying to point out in the most simplistic terms something that you resolutely refuse to acknowledge.
What am I resolutely refusing to acknowledge?
There are cultural differences, and in some countries, the main cultural driver, if you like, is religion. And that causes an awful... And if you don't mind saying, before Brexit, the issue of immigration was totally conflated because most people...
There's an awful lot going on in your head.
And I don't... immigration from Europe.
Phil.
They were concerned about immigration from outside of Europe.
Well, why did they vote to leave Europe then?
Because it was totally conflated by people like you who made out
but I was constantly pointing it out, Phil. I mean, you know my viral clips. You watch them on YouTube. You remember the guy who rang in to say that... Phil,
I've said what I said, and you can rubbish it for all you want. But I know
I haven't rubbished anything you've said, Phil. All I've done... Yes, I know you are, Phil. Yes, and I hope all your neighbours... May all your neighbours blend in, Phil.
You are a sanctimonious person. You really are.
May all your neighbours blend in.
Yep, and yours. Bye-bye.
Love to the family.
So, after listening to that entire exchange, it's hard not to come away thinking that the caller completely undermined his own argument. He repeatedly insisted he wasn't racist, claiming his concerns were purely about culture. But every time James O'Brien asked him to explain exactly what he meant, the answers became more vague, more contradictory, and much harder to defend. The biggest moment came when he tried to define what he called the norm. Instead of giving a clear explanation, he drifted into confusing comparisons and technical language that never actually answered the question. It felt less like a solid argument and more like someone trying to avoid saying what they really meant. Then there was the hypothetical about Britain being destroyed and people fleeing abroad. On the surface, it sounded like an attempt to make a broader point about culture and immigration. But it didn't really address the questions James was asking, and it only highlighted how far the conversation had moved away from evidence and into personal assumptions. What stood out most was how often phrases like blending in, preserving norms, and cultural concerns were used without being clearly defined. Those kinds of expressions can mean very different things to different people, which is exactly why James kept pressing for specific answers. Instead of getting clarity, the discussion became increasingly circular. Whether you agree with James O'Brien or not, one thing is difficult to ignore. If you're making a serious claim about an entire group of people, you need clear reasoning that can stand up to scrutiny. In this case, the caller struggled to provide it, and that's why the conversation has resonated with so many people. But that's just my take. Do you think James exposed major flaws in the caller's argument, or do you think the caller had a point that wasn't fully understood? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe for more political debates and analysis. I'll see you in the next one.